I don't know. See what happens here. Looks like it's going to be okay. Excellent connection. Excellent connection. Hey, everybody. Looks like we're working now. Think we got it. Hey, everybody. Looks like we're working. Now nobody will come. It's working great now. Columbus, yeah, they're not going to be. The West is the only one. 79. Yeah, Vegas isn't going to make it. But who's going to make it instead? Winnipeg 74. Still in the grind. All right, so, hey, we got people here. I think it's working. I think it's working, everybody. Whoever came in. Say hi if you come in. We're looking at who's getting Will Smith in the NHL. Smacked. Oh, what's Vegas to me? Vegas is going to get smacked out. It just, the Eichel thing didn't work for this year. I don't think it's going to. I just don't. The Eichel thing didn't work for this year. Too many injuries, and I don't know, questionable whether they are injuries or not. Pacioretty, I never even realized it, but man, he seems to be on the IR quite a bit. And without Stone there, with the different chemistry when they brought Eichel in, Lehner being injured, it would seem that Vegas will probably fall out here. That would be my Will Smith slap, is that Vegas falls out. And now who's going to replace them? Vancouver looks like they're pretty much unstoppable. They're playing with an energy and belief that they haven't had since Green brought them to the finals that 1 year, but that was mostly on goaltending. But this team's not working mostly on goaltending. I'm really surprised that teams don't expose their weak defense more than they do. But it seems like Boudreau has been able to patch that up somehow. Probably getting players to be completely honest with their weaknesses and how to play and how not to play and where, I think that's the hardest part about being a coach, is getting the truth out of each player about what they are, what they're not good at, and what they are good at, and having them play within their strengths. And that's what Boudreau looks like he's did in Vancouver. Myers has simplified his game. I don't understand for the life of me why Vetrano didn't play higher in any lineup. I don't know why Boston left him. Florida, I can kind of get, they were pretty stacked, but I'm really excited to see what he's going to turn out to, because I've been talking about Vetrano for a long time with his shot. And He's just the type of guy that in the right situation, he could pot 30 goals. Easy. Yeah, his defensive game isn't great, but he is a guy that he's a highly competitive player. He knows how to get in the right spots offensively. And, you know, he's pretty good at throwing people off their games too. So I don't know. It was one of the best trades of the. It was one of the best pickups of the deadline. I think maybe the best. Maybe the best. Like I don't understand why there weren't other teams out there when with what was being thrown out for players out there. I really am surprised that there wasn't another team out there that wasn't willing to give a third or. Oh, I don't know. My stream didn't work and I got rid of some background stuff. Then I restarted my computer. I turned my satellite off and on, and now it seems to be working okay. So, but I think Vegas is gonna not. I think Vegas is gonna miss. Vegas is gonna get the Will Smith Award this year. You guys saw that, eh? Like that was crazy. I went back and forth. I mean, it was a pretty low joke, but haven't you been watching the award ceremonies for the last few years? Like, if you weren't able to handle any kind of thing that could be thrown your way, you shouldn't have been there. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But anyways, I will Smith smack Vegas out of the playoffs. For one thing, they don't deserve to be there. I don't think. They just don't have the chemistry right now. Try it again next year. You get Eichel a full season and Stone and Pacioretty in the lineup, and you work out the cap situation. And get Lehner back if that improves it all that much, and see what happens from there. But I think when you see teams like Vancouver playing their balls off and playing with pride like that, a team like Vegas, who's basically been just throwing darts at a board, hoping that they, can get a cup before they cave. I don't know. I want to see Vancouver make it. Yeah, I mean, Raquel has been kind of wallowing in Anaheim for a while. I think he got a bit stale there. So yeah, and I mean, well, it's only one game, but he had 3 or 4 points in that Detroit game. It's certainly going to be a boost to be able to be on a playoff team. Like, in fairness to Raquel, he's been on a team that's either been rebuilding or, basically hasn't on paper looked like a playoff team for years. It's kind of hard to get yourself up for all the games when you pretty much know that what you see on the ice and what you see in the room is not going to make it. It's a little tough to do. And it's always the weight is always on the veterans like Raquel's shoulders to get them there. And I don't think Raquel is a guy that's going to take the weight of a team on his shoulders, Yeah, he gets to mix into a team now. He's not like anywhere near the guy that they're looking to be the scorer on the team. And I think that taking that pressure off him will probably loosen up his game a little bit, and his offense will probably just fly. So yeah, that deal could end up looking really bad for the Ducks. All their other deals, though, I mean, the Lindholm deal, Hampus Lindholm I think that's going to work out really well for Boston for the now. The thing is are they really a cup team now that they have Lindholm? Like, is that going to be the the straw that puts them over the hill? You know, like I'm trying to remember that. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Is that going to be the thing that puts them over the top to win a cup this year? Does it make them a better team? Yeah. Does it give them that much higher of a percentage of winning the cup? I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe it does. But I mean, it's like a difference between 15% and 25%. Yeah, I think he'll be a good fit. But I mean, what I'm saying is this is not a cup team. You know, I just, when are they going to realize that they're not a cup team? Or what are they going to do to make themselves a cup team? I guess that pretty much caps them out for next year, I believe. They'll trade to Brusque, but overall, you look at that team and it's just not a cup team. They could catch lightning in a bottle, and Swayman could do like some young goaltenders out there have done. Hey, Brian, Sports Entertainment. How you doing, buddy? If they're in the anything is possible once you make the playoffs category of the playoffs. And if I'm in, they were in that before they got Lindholm, and they're still in there. And I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not going to make a move that like that unless it puts me into it'll be disappointing if I lose the playoffs category. But I guess they have a long-term vision with Lindholm. So we'll see what they do. Obviously, they're not going to be rebuilding anytime soon. Obviously, Bergeron will be coming back. They'll re-sign Bergeron, and they'll keep on motoring with this aging group and trying to add for them to have one last hurrah. As Swayman gets older, I'm sure he's just going to get better and better as a goaltender. So they might have a chance. They might have a chance if all the stars align. They pick up some depth players that can actually score. But I just don't see it. I just don't see it. It's Swayman's going to have to get to be elite. He's going to have to be in. I think Swayman's going to have to get to the point where he's in the Shesterkin, Demko, Vasilevsky category for Boston to really be a contender in the next couple of years. It all hinges on that. How many points? It's hard to say. Wait till they get home. He'll probably start potting a couple. My concern with Florida, and I've been saying it right from the beginning, it's their road play. They're not very good on the road. And teams that are not very good on the road generally don't do well in the playoffs. Who are they going to play right now if they go into the playoffs? So Florida would actually play Boston right now if the playoffs were to start today. Oh, how many points is he going to? I thought you were talking about how many points. I thought you were talking about how many points now that he's in Florida, but you're talking about till the end of the year. So that's the last 20 games here. I'm just bringing him up right now. So they got him. It's a weird. They got him on the right side. You think he's going to get, that would be like almost 2 points a game. No. 14 points in the next 60 games played. If he gets 80 points, that'd be like 28 points in 20 games. Are you talking about like a full season? How many, if he stays in Florida? I don't think he's staying in Florida. But I think he's going for a cup run this year. And from what I understand, and this, that he's got a long-term contract worked out for Ottawa. So I don't know if he plans on thinking he's planning on winning a cup, but apparently he's got a long-term contract in his back pocket to go home to Ottawa. Which would be weird. I mean, Ottawa would become way better if they had him, but oh yeah, I mean Boston. I'll tell you what, if Boston plays Florida, that's the one team I think they might be able to beat. Because Florida's road record is, I mean, to me, a road record is a really good indication of what you're going to be as a playoff team. Because it's on the road that you play your more playoff style hockey, because you don't have the advantage of having last change, and where you are situated on the bench, you have the longer change. Those are the games that you kind of got to grind out, and they don't seem to be able to grind them out. Like that game against Toronto should have been a lot closer than they are. I look at teams that how they do when they're on the road and tired. And the teams that are successful on the road and tired, except for Tampa, because Tampa just turns it on whenever they feel like it. Freaking blows your mind. I'm not going to let them burn me again. But Florida's got to show me that before I can say that they do. I mean, Tampa's rare. Tampa's like, nobody does that. Nobody just turns it on like they do. So, you know, they're the odd exception of a team that gets away with it. That they're not good on the road. Well, what is their road record? Tampa Bay. Yeah, see, they still got a good road record. 22-12-2. What's Florida? 18-9-6. It's okay. I thought it was closer than that. But Florida kind of feeds on the weaker competition. That's what it is. And then they play stronger competition on the road. So I don't know. I'm not there with Florida. I like their roster. I mean, they're stacked. But I got to see them play true playoff hockey. Most of their games they play in the regular season, and they crush teams right away. They just outskate. It's not bad, but it's not a bad road record. But they mostly crush like a team against Toronto. Those are the games you gotta be able to keep close and win. That game against Toronto, they play against tougher teams on the road, And they have a tendency. I like to see what their record is with anybody that's over 500 on the road against them. I'm pretty sure they feed off of the crappy teams, and they really just outskate them in the first, and kind of beat them down. But the problem is in the playoffs. I don't think. I'll take Carolina's game over Florida's game in the playoffs all day long. Let me just say it that way. Carolina knows how to play a reserved game where you conserve your energy throughout the whole game. It's their positioning is way better than Florida's defensively, maybe better than anybody in the league. If Florida thinks they're going to go out and just crash everybody into the boards and play at 100 miles an hour for a 7-game series, like they tried to do against Tampa Bay when they played them last year, they're not going to be able to do it. It's impossible. You can't do it. I don't care what your roster's like. You can't do that in the playoffs. Let's finally take this out of here. You can't do that in the playoffs. Yeah, the Canadians are the first team out. It'll be interesting to see how they play now, if they still play with pride. I imagine they will, with St. Louis as their coach. Do you guys think that St. Louis will be back? By the way, tap that like button, everybody. Do you think that St. Louis will be back next year? I think he will. The team has played well in front of him. Like you said, he's brought pride back into that organization now. He's brought pride back to the team. I think it'd be kind of hard to let him go now. Maybe impossible to let him go. He's kind of made it so it'll be next to impossible to let him go, I think. Yeah, there's been a couple AHL trades there that I saw. It doesn't really make much of a difference to the team now, but yeah, is that likely? They're definitely on a mission right now. And the other teams ahead of them are not as the other teams ahead of them are not in the they're not in the position where they want to waste that kind of energy. They're trying to move up because they're Boston. That's just the way they are. And like I said, if they play Florida, I may end up taking Florida to beat Boston, or maybe take Boston to beat Florida. And it's not that I don't like Florida. I want Florida. Yeah, the Canes are already getting into playoff mode right now. That's what Brendan Moore's already got them thinking playoff type hockey. Thank you, Craig Berube. Why is that? Oh, because of how bad they played. Yeah, St. Louis's defense, especially after they got Leddy, I thought they were going to miss the playoffs this year. Maybe they still will, honestly. I thought that defense was piss poor. And getting Leddy doesn't help it. Losing Krug certainly doesn't help it. they're mostly just very fortunate that they didn't have injuries to their most of the year, because one injury and they're in trouble. They got too many guys there that are just simply not good on that D line. Bertuzzo. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, well, that's sort. I think that if he pulled the goaltender with 5 minutes left, that's a message to your team. Like, basically, no use having a goaltender in there the way you're playing. There's no use having him. That was a message to his team, I think. But the thing is just like in Edmonton, in St. Louis, you can get mad at your defense all you want, but the fact of the matter is they do not have the skill sets to do what you want them to do. It's like yelling at a handicapped person because they're not, because they're not walking fast enough. That's pretty much what Tippett was doing with the Oilers defensemen, and it was just killing the whole team, is he kept on yelling at them about, you got to play this way. And you got guys like Barry and, Keith and those guys. They can't play that way. They can't play the way you're supposed to play. It's not that they're not trying to. They're not able to. And that's the same as, you got this new coach out there, and they're like, oh, they're playing much better now. No, they're playing better offensively because he's not beating up the team. He's not whipping the defense for being something that they can't be. That he's just kind of saying, look, the best thing we can do is play as much as we can in the opposition's end. Because, and he doesn't say this out loud, but our defense isn't good enough to get the puck out of the zone or play or stop one-on-ones or, it's not good enough. If the Oilers play too much in their own zone, and by too much, that's like more than average. Like, if they don't control the offensive zone, they're going to lose a lot of games. And St. Louis is kind of the same way. What? So, yeah, I think Boston was sort of like that too until they got Lindholm. Lindholm certainly makes Boston a better team, no doubt about it. 5 minutes for Rafi. Yeah, I don't know. Even me, I don't even care about this shit. Like, I don't care about it at all. But I got to say, I'm interested to see what they do to Will Smith for what he did. I thought about it a long time. I thought about it a while. And I mean, if you're on, I don't know if you guys were watching the Oscars the last couple of years, but what's that great comedian? He was slamming guys left, right, and center. I mean, he went way lower than what Chris Rock went there. I mean, you had to know what you were getting into when you got into that. So I thought about it, and to me, that's on Will Smith. Now, that's good though, because I couldn't. I never did care who won the awards. It's the only time I've ever actually cared about what happened at an Oscar. I couldn't care less who won the awards, really. I mean, Ricky Gervais, yeah, great comedian, slamming the award show the whole time. I mean, and slamming everybody. Yeah, I mean, he went he got way down, right? Like he went low. And if you weren't you watching that, like you telling me you didn't watch the award ceremonies the last couple of years? And you're going to go sit in the front row while Chris Rock is there? I mean, no. Well, both goaltenders in Edmonton are really average, but and you combine that with the defense, you're done, man. I've been saying it all year long. Their defense is pathetic. Everybody's goaltender. Have you looked at your defense all year? You put Koskinen in Carolina, he's got probably about a .915 and a 2.6, somewhere around there. 2.6 and a .915. You put him in Carolina. Tampa Bay or something like that. You put him even on an average team, he's probably a .907. You put him at the defensive Edmonton has. You put Shesterkin in Edmonton, and he ain't winning the Vezina this year. I'll tell you that right now. There's no goaltender winning the Vezina with the Edmonton Oilers defense. No way. They're not winning nothing with that. That defense, I can't say it enough. They go goaltender. Goaltending's not the problem there, in the sense that it's not the worst problem. The worst problem is horrible defense. In Boston, he would be better in Boston. Yeah, I mean, Boston's defense isn't the greatest either, but it's not Edmonton Oilers. Like, now that they have Lindholm, but I mean, they got McAvoy. McAvoy is a one-man wrecking machine, all just in that alone. Nurse has been playing very well this year, but I mean, he's not McAvoy. No way, he's not McAvoy. And besides that, what do they got? Bouchard's just a kid. He's going to be great. Keith is retirement. Ceci is a 5'6". Like, you think about, you take all of their defensemen and put them on, like, Cody Ceci probably doesn't make Carolina's top 6. Florida, no, not Florida's, not Tampa Bay's. And they're playing them up on a top pairing. Barry doesn't make the Florida lineup. Probably doesn't make Boston's lineup. Certainly doesn't make Tampa Bay's lineup. Like, most of their defense would not make any top team's lineup besides Nurse and Bouchard. Bouchard probably would. Besides that, Duncan Keith would be so far in the press box that he wouldn't even be able to see the game anymore on any really, really good defense out there. Colorado, if he was on the team of Colorado, Duncan Keith would be in the minors probably. I don't know. All of the teams I mentioned, Florida, Colorado, those are Colorado's. Johnson would make Carolina. Tampa Bay, everybody on Tampa Bay's defense would make Carolina's defense. Their top 6. Any one of their top 6 would play in Carolina. Florida is a little bit like, Florida's got an overrated defense. When Ekblad and when Uyghur is there, okay. And what's his name? Forsling is great. But there's kind of and Gudis gets her done, not bad. But after that, it's kind of a big slide after that. Sherrod's way overrated. I guess that's probably the problem there in Florida, why they don't have a great road team. And where I think that they could be, I think they're going to have a tough time in the playoffs. I really do. I don't think Florida's going to win a cup. I know a lot of people have Florida for the cup, but I would definitely take Carolina over Florida for playoffs. Let's see where else. Let's bring up Carolina here. What the heck? Carolina. It's their bottom pair. Carolina is a little bit shaky, but their forwards make up to it so much. Their team defense is just spectacular. Their system is amazing. Yeah, Smith and Ian Cole. I mean, Brandon Smith there. But the top 4, there's not many. Maybe Pesce or Shea. I think Brady Shea could be taken by a lot of teams. But if you look at Tampa Bay's top 6, oh, Jan Ruda wouldn't make, I mean, he's kind of over, he might make he would probably make the 5-6. Bogosian, no. Yeah, he might have a point there. Who are they missing, though? McDonough. This is when everybody's in. So when everybody's in, you've got McDonough, Hedman, Sergachev, Chernak. And Jan Ruda is their should be their 5-6. So Cal Foote probably wouldn't make Carolina's 5-6. Maybe. Hard to say. I haven't watched enough of them, I don't think. But well, I mean, okay, you say the New York Rangers, but their expected goals against is absolutely atrocious. Shesterkin is the defense for the Rangers, without a doubt. Calgary is underrated. Yeah, Calgary's team defense is fantastic. But the Rangers rely way too much on Shesterkin. And that's why I don't believe they're going to get past the first round this year. They're not ready. They're too green. Colorado's their defense man to man is the best in the league, I think. Carolina, and there's a toss-up between Carolina and Tampa. Florida's defense, I don't know. Their actual defensemen, man on man, would be on the bottom of that list to me, I think. Maybe the Rangers. Nashville's got Josie and, Pittsburgh. Man for man, Pittsburgh does it. But again, that's team defenses. Their team defense is amazing. What is your opinion? Do you think... Oh, yeah, I know. Fleury's amazing, man. Fleury is absolutely freaking amazing. People were thinking that he was going to be the backup to Talbot in Minnesota. I was talking to guys They're saying he was going to be the backup to Talbot. I was like, are you freaking mad? Fleury is going to rip that crease away from Talbot within 3 games. When Vegas is fully healthy, but if I were to take the defenseman specifically, just the actual defenseman, forget about team defense and all that. I would probably take Colorado's defense. Maybe Tampa Bay's. Tampa Bay or Colorado. Because, Colorado's got Makar, Girard, and I'm talking about fully healthy. Byram, Johnson, and Taves. I mean, that is spectacular, really. Absolutely spectacular. The top 6 combined. But we'll see what happens when the playoff starts. I'm going to say that Florida maybe gets by Boston, but I don't think they're beating Carolina or Tampa Bay. You heard it here first. Like right now, let's say they get by Boston. That's assuming that Boston doesn't catch up to them, right? Boston has got 3 games in hand on Florida, but they got to win all those games. So let's say Boston gets second. Boston, I think, will beat Toronto. Won't beat Tampa Bay. And then Florida would Carolina would play Washington. Toronto and Florida. Now that's one that Florida will win. Oh yeah, I don't know obviously there's a lot of people that just watch their own team and they don't know what goes on in the league. But he was doing that in Chicago all year long, man. It's not like any new thing for Fleury to do what he did in Minnesota. He's been doing that all year in Chicago. And people are looking at his numbers. I'm like, he's getting shelled in Chicago, man. He was getting shelled in Chicago. He was making those 5-bell saves over and over and over again. It was unbelievable. And then when you take into consideration all the crap that he had to go through in Chicago. Hey, Joey, how you doing, buddy? But, and then Talbot came back and played amazing against Colorado. They shouldn't have won that game at all. And it ticked me off because I had Colorado to win that game. Yeah, it was no use sticking around there. You're not in a playoff spot. But man, that was a rough go for him to. The 7th player award. So what are you going to do now, Joey? What are you going to do now? Philly's out. Who are you rooting for now, Joey? Now that Philly's out. Which team do you want to... Well, you're probably rooting for Florida, right? You want to see Giroux win a cup? You want to probably rooting for Florida, I would think. I'd like to see Giroux win a cup too. I just don't think he's going to be able to do it in Florida. Not confident. Until I see it, I'm not confident in Bobrovsky. Spencer Knight's too young, and I need to see. I want to see them be able to play a defensive brand of hockey, a playoff brand of hockey. And right now, I'm not confident that they're capable of doing that. Yeah, I don't know what happened there with Dodonov. Like a lot of people are blaming Vegas, but I'm not sure it was Vegas's fault. Maybe it is. I don't know. That's a weird situation. Something in me makes me think they tried to pull a fast one and trade Dodonov because he was traded right at the deadline. And I think they were trying to trade him somewhere where he knew he would go and nobody would take him. And then they realized that, hey, wait a sec, he didn't give us a team list in the beginning of the year or something, or I don't know. It seems to me that Vegas was trying to pull a fast one there and didn't get away with it. And now it's going to bite them in the butt because I don't know what they're going to do in the playoffs now. I don't know how that whole thing works where you yeah, it's cap room, yeah, because they need cap room to bring Stone it back. And now they can't bring Stone back because they have Dodonov. Now, I don't know how it works in the playoffs because apparently in the playoffs, you have to have your roster can't be... I think they just got to put him... But does he have a no movement clause too, Dodonov? That would be crazy. That would be absolutely crazy if Dodonov has a no movement clause. No, he just has a moderate no movement clause. The question is, can a guy with a moderate no movement clause be sent down to the minors? He's got a 10-team no-trade list. Because I think the way they have it now since that Kucherov situation that went on there, is that you have to be under the team you ice on the ice and that are, scratches and everything have to be under the cap or you forfeit the game. And now with Dodonov there, that's not possible to happen if Stone is in the lineup. So the only thing I can think of them doing is trading him to a team just before the playoffs that will take his cap space and they'll have to give up a pick. And then, because they're not going to use him in the playoffs anyways, and you can trade after the deadline, but the guy you trade can't play in the NHL. So they can trade him to a team, but he can't play in the NHL in the playoffs for any team. So they could trade him to a team that's out of the playoffs, that's not on his list, but they're going to have to fork over a first rounder to do it because they got him by the short hairs now. Whatever team that is, if they got the cap room, they're going to be like, I want you're going to give me your first in 2023 or whatever, because they can. Like, they can just say, well, we won't take him then. You got to make it worth our while, and they really have no choice but to do it. So they're going to end up like paying through the nose to get rid of Dadonov probably just before the playoffs. Jeremy Soled, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, they're looking much better, but I mean, they still got to solve that problem where they have to rely on Shesterkin so much. Their expected goals against is really high, and it's basically Shesterkin. It's the New York Shesterkins, really. He is no doubt about it, the Vezina winner this year. No doubt about that at all. That is for sure. I don't even think it's even close. Are they out mathematically now? I've only heard that Montreal are. They're not out mathematically, but I mean, they got to win. There's no way they can win as many games as they have to win. They're out. They got a lot of good first shooters there. I mean, I'll be surprised if the Rangers make it past the first round. I think they can do it. They got enough shooters. Anything, like I said, anything can. To me, the Rangers are like the anything can happen category going into the playoffs. But I mean, for a team that's in the anything can happen category, they picked up some really good players that could help anything happen. Vetrano was a beautiful move for a fourth. Now, I don't know if they're going to be able to sign him, but that's a guy that can do, there's several players, like no-name players, that have gone to score like 12 or 14 goals in the playoffs, and that just keeps on going in for him over and over again. He's that kind of guy. He could do that. He's got that he's that one-shot shooter that if he gets hot, he could just go on a tear, and they gave up a fourth for him. That was crazy, but I just think they're a little too green to yet. And I mean, Shesterkin can do anything. Who knows? Like, you get a guy go off like we saw Price last year with Montreal. I mean, a guy like Shesterkin can win series for you for sure. So. But I still say they're in the anything can happen category. You against the Rangers against Carolina or fighting Tampa Bay? No, they're fighting Dallas. Dallas for a playoff spot. Dallas Stars. They're a couple points behind. I think they're going to make it. I mean, the big thing for me was that last win against Dallas. That last win against Dallas, I mean, they've been on the road for a while, and now they go up against St. Louis. I'm going to probably take them over St. Louis. They're playing with a type of belief and heart right now that it doesn't seem like anything can stop them. They're chasing Winnipeg and Dallas. And they got to get, maybe it's Vegas you're talking about. And they're what, 3 points behind Vegas? 67-77. Oh, but they played a lot of games. Oh, okay. Dallas has got 4 games in hand. It's good. It's still going to be tough for them to get in because Dallas has got 4 games in hand. 77. I mean, there's only 15 games left for 18 games for Dallas, 15 games for Vancouver. Like they got to keep going on this tear. Yeah, I would say. I can't back anybody with a defense like that. Edmonton to lose in the first round, whoever they play. If they make it, I mean, they're in right now, right? Yeah, they would play LA right now. That would be a tight series. I think they might be able to beat LA, maybe. But if they do pass the first round, I think that would be it. Right now, Minnesota would play Nashville. But, I mean, anything can happen right now. If St. Louis gets back to where they can, basically anything can happen in the West right now, so it's hard to say. Nashville, Minnesota would be interesting, that's for sure. I got to go with Minnesota with Fleury, though. And then Edmonton would play Calgary, because Calgary's going to beat who? Yeah. Edmonton, Calgary, they're not winning that. No way, no how. Calgary's winning that all day long. Calgary's winning that all day long. He's getting the best he can out of it, but their defense is still their defense. So that's why I said when they brought Woodcroft, he's probably better as a coach, but I don't think there's a coach out there that can do anything with the defensemen that they have, like anything where they would win a cup or something. There's only so much you can do with a roster. There's only so much you can do with a roster. I don't care if you're Barry Trotz or Tortorella or whoever you are, like one of the best coaches out there. I don't know. I mean, Barry Trotz and Tortorella maybe. But if Tortorella was coaching the Oilers, he would be screaming like at management to get a better deal. Like Barry would never see the ice. Barry would never see the ice if Tortorella was coaching there. No, not a freaking chance. He wouldn't be. There would be no skates to ice if Tortorella was coach there for sure. That's right. Yeah. Like Philadelphia, people saying, "Well, Yo is not a good coach either." How do you know? You got Rista Line and playing in your top 4, man. I mean, how do you know who's a good coach when you got a defense like that? I don't know. Devondra! Barry, baby. I don't think it can be in the first round. It'd probably be in the second, unless Edmonton falls off, yeah. But there's no way Edmonton's beating Calgary. No way. Devondra in the house. Mark Brown, how you doing? Thanks for coming in. So there's Mark Brown, very reasonable New York Rangers fan, probably the most reasonable New York Rangers fan I've ever met. Who are the Rangers beating in the first round? Boston, Minnesota. Well, you're just a Boston fan. I love me some Marc-Andre Fleury, but I can't see Minnesota making the finals. That would be, I mean, so who can the Rangers beat in the first round, you figure, Mark? Right now you got Pittsburgh. Do you think the Rangers can beat Pittsburgh in the first round? I mean, anybody can beat anybody. We know that. There's things that can happen. But realistically speaking, how much of a chance do you think the Rangers have against the Pittsburgh Penguins in the first round? Yeah, Yo is not the problem there. I don't like when you look at the defense lineup, I see the thing is with fans is they really don't want to admit that the actual players that they're putting on the ice are not good enough. They don't want to admit that because that's a bigger problem. It's like, please tell me the coach is the problem. Then, that's easier. Change a coach, boom, we're good, right? But that's not the case in Philadelphia, and that's not the case in Edmonton either. It's the defense, the actual players that are in the lineup every night for Philadelphia and Edmonton on defense are not every single one of them, but a lot of them are not good enough to be there in the positions that they're in. Those are the problems in Philly and in Edmonton. And that's, the coach isn't going to change that. I think the Rangers can play good, but I don't think they're beating Pittsburgh. You got that veteran lineup. Yeah, you got that veteran lineup that has all that experience going up against those green guys in New York. I mean, I'm sure New York will give it their best shot, but I can't. It would be a big surprise if the Rangers beat Pittsburgh in the first round. Maybe Jari does the same thing he did last playoffs. Then the Rangers will win for sure. If Jari goes back to being what he was in the playoffs last year, then the Rangers can win that. Anybody could beat Pittsburgh then. That was like unbelievable. I don't remember the last time I saw a goaltender implode like that in the playoffs. Like he couldn't stop. He looked like he completely forgot how to be a goaltender. I don't know. He totally lost all confidence last year. So if that happened, for sure the Rangers can win. But if Jari plays like he has this year, with the roster that they have, and Pittsburgh plays their best game against the Rangers playing their best game, I think the Rangers will take a game or two because Shesterkin will steal it for them, but Pittsburgh will end up taking that series, I would imagine. If I was the Rangers, at very least, I mean, I'd be wanting to get that home ice advantage for sure, because that is a big advantage to be playing out in New York. That New York arena is a big advantage to play against anybody. Why am I live again? What do you mean? I mean, everybody has a puncher's chance. That's kind of what that's a good way of putting it. Pens all day. Penguins all day long. Joey Serrano's in the house again. Yeah, I take the Pens. Who do you take, Hockey News Reports? Rangers in 6? I don't see how you do that, dude. That team is just too green, man. Look what they got. I know they brought in a couple vets, but I mean, even the Rangers know that they're really fortunate if they get past too far in this year's playoffs. You can tell by who they acquired at the deadline. Like, they did well to acquire some. They acquired guys that can put them in a much better position to get lucky. Frank Vetrano is one of those guys that can just start potting goals like crazy. But I mean, Ryan Strome should be back. Cop Lafreniere is only 20. Philip Hedl. Having Barclay Goodrow helps out a lot. Having a play, because he won a cup in Tampa Bay. But, I mean, look at how young this lineup is. Lindgren is amazing, but he's only 24. He still hasn't got that playoff acumen yet. Adam Fox, I don't think it matters about his age. He's just amazing. He's going to be amazing in the playoffs anyways. But Keandre Miller's only 22. Braden Schneider. I suppose they'll play Braun in the playoffs, probably, over Schneider, because he's a veteran. But, yeah, maybe if you're right, cool, man. That's cool, but I just can't say it. I think Pittsburgh wins for sure. Pittsburgh would be my pick for sure. Oh, yeah. Well, for sure the Rangers are going to put up a good fight. No doubt about that. I just think Pittsburgh can play that playoff hockey better than the Rangers can. It's something that has to be learned. When you look at some of the great teams that, like even the Chicago Blackhawks and Edmonton Oilers and the New York Islanders before they won their 5, they lost a few playoff rounds, and Tampa Bay against Columbus. Like, teams got to have to learn how to how to play in the playoffs. Yeah, Lafreniere is just not a righty, man. I don't know long term. I don't know what's going to happen there. And when they took him in that draft, I don't know. I thought they figured he could play right, but I don't know where they got that from because he never showed that he could be a righty up until that time. Like, I really, really think, and I said it at the time, I really thought they should have took Stützle there. And they might have looked bad because if Ottawa would have took Lafreniere, you know, he would have got more of an opportunity to play in Ottawa, probably would have had better numbers than he does now, and they might have looked, you know, might not have looked too good. But Ottawa would have been in trouble right now because they wouldn't have had a center. Although they played Stützle on the left side for quite a bit. But in the end, they would have had Stützle for that second line center spot and first line center eventually over Zibanejad. And now they're in a situation where they kind of got to scratch their heads on what they can do because you're not trading Kreider and you're not trading Panarin with their no trade clauses because you're not going to get anything else in return. And between the two of them, they got all $18.5 million wrapped up on their left side. And now you've got Lafreniere there too. So he's got to be looking ahead going, where am I going to fit here? You know, I'm not going to get paid third line money. No way. So that's why I did that Lafreniere trade video. I just got ripped on. Anyways, what else we got? Because this is who's going to be bumped out of the playoffs. I guess the other question is, who does Toronto beat? Like, it's still Toronto. Like, Boston could overtake Toronto, and then they would end up playing Tampa Bay, Carolina, Florida. Right now, Boston would play Carolina. And there's a thing, like I talk about that with the Rangers where they're really young, but so is Carolina. Well, yeah, Halak played, when he played not too long ago. He played fantastic. Yeah, I mean, you think you'd need to get way more than just Velarde for Lafreniere though, right? You'd want to get way more than just Velarde for Lafreniere. If I was, I'd want Velarde, Kupari. Like I'd want a package of players. I wish Hajin would be here because Boston, Carolina would be an interesting series because the only thing that has me worried about Carolina is again, just like the Rangers, but not quite as much as the Rangers. They are pretty young though. You still got Seth Jarvis. He's only 20 years old. And Aho is only 24. Teravainen's a little older. He's got a little bit of playoff experience. But Svechnikov is 22. Trocheck isn't really a guy I want to be having. That's the reason why they're not going to re-sign him. And then Nietzsche's is having an off year. But they do it as a team. They're so good together. Jordan Staal, of course, has been there a long time. Veteran guy. I mean, his game has slipped in the regular season, but I think he'll be much more valuable in the playoffs. Niederreiter, I mean, it's funny. They don't really have what you would call playoff performers, except for Slavin, probably Pesci. You know, but they play a team game that has playoff perfume written all over it. Yeah, I mean, I would look at Velarde, but he really has not hit his stride yet. So I would look at that. Velarde, Kupari, Jason Dolan Anderson, and a first-round pick or something like that. That would give them a ton of depth to work with. They picked, yeah, who was that against? Who did they pick Halak over Demko, and he just crushed it? And I know I had a play on Vancouver to lose that game. You do that deal? Really? Kupari, Jared Dolan Anderson. Who else did I say? Velarde and a first. Wow, deal. If I'm LA, I'm doing that deal. I'm doing that deal if I'm LA. Lafreniere, when he would have much more of an opportunity to play in LA. They desperately need some big guys like that. His offensive upside is huge. I mean, with Kupari, I don't know what you're getting with Kupari. He's kind of a question mark, although he's got second line center upside for sure. Velarde, if he can put it together, I mean, he's big. He hasn't put it all together yet for some reason. But you got to play him at wing. But he's a much better third line winger. Like, he would be your third line winger there. I'm pretty sure. I think he's a third line. And then, of course, you get the first round pick. Yeah, Kupari can play anywhere too. See, it's his offense that hasn't hit stride yet, and that's what it would have me concerned with that. And then, of course, Velarde, I mean, he just can't seem to get any offense going in the NHL. But both of them are 22. They still got upside. So, Kupari, Velarde, Jason Dolan Anderson, or Jarrett, not Jason, Jarrett. Jarrett Dolan Anderson. I liked him. He's got almost a point a game, 22 goals in 44 games. I mean, you're getting a lot of volume. So your depth, the depth for the Rangers would be really good. Especially if you knock it out of the park with the first. So you have Kupari could take Heedle's spot. You'd have Kupari, Velarde, and Jason Dolan Anderson can play anywhere too. That's almost the whole line. You're picking up a line. I wonder how Kapari would play with a guy like Panarin, though. EC. Carolina -1.5 tonight. Oh, I mean, Washington has owned Carolina at home, but I like Carolina to win. I don't know about -1.5, though. I like Carolina to win, even though Washington has owned Carolina at home. I just think that Carolina's playing like so set in. I mean, I think with Carolina, I always like the under, but I'll probably stay away from the side. Vanacek has been playing better. Carolina plays against Tampa Bay tomorrow. Let me look at something here. Ah, shit. I can't see the freaking. I can't see what they played as of late. How long has Carolina been on the road for? I was a little concerned about how long Carolina's been on the road. They just crushed St. Louis, but St. Louis, there's something wrong with those guys. I just think Carolina's game can rip apart Washington. I'm taking Carolina. You want to do it on the puck line? I mean, that's ballsy, but I could see it. Washington to me is a team that really wants to play again a straight line game with somebody. A team like Carolina that can play a trap game, they can frustrate you. And I don't find Washington to be a team that, hey, Kevin Serling. I don't find Washington to be a team that plays well when they're frustrated. And Carolina can frustrate the best of them. Kevin Serling in the house. How you doing, buddy? Little sad, I imagine. Big Islanders fan there. Carolina's your team this year? We were just talking about Carolina. Why Carolina then? Why do you choose Carolina now that the Islanders are out? Man, that's going to be tough. I think Tampa Bay probably wins that, but that would be a barn burner series. I just got to take Tampa Bay's experience. Tampa Bay is going to be really hard to beat in the playoffs. Super hard to beat in the playoffs. The only thing that might be the saving grace, I don't know. Can they do it? I suppose anybody can, but would I give them a higher percentage of winning than Tampa Bay? No. I think Tampa Bay's a better team. All Islanders fans have a backup. You got Mark Brown, Kevin Serling, Islanders fan, Rangers fans. You guys can Will Smith each other. Yeah, I can't take Carolina over Tampa Bay. I'll tell you, the one of the big reasons is you got Maroon. I'm taking Tampa Bay to win the cup again, their third straight. You got Maroon and Perry on the same team. Maroon and Perry on the same team. Like, the one thing I gotta say about Carolina is they're very disciplined, and they're, Brindamore is such an amazing coach. Like, they don't get rattled, and they've been playing a playoff style game all year. Maroon was originally a Flyer, yeah. Yeah, I mean, what? Yeah, he started as a Flyer, didn't he? And then didn't he go to like the Islanders, or he went to the Ducks, and then Edmonton. And was it straight to Tampa Bay after that, or did he make one more stop? Yeah, it's just this team. In some ways, you'll think that it would think it was weaker because you don't have Gaudreau and Coleman. Yeah, he went to Anaheim, but Perry and Maroon, man. I mean, that combination in the playoffs is just stupid. You put both of those guys. Yeah, I think they're playing them on the same line, but in the playoffs, I don't think they will. And they are Mr. Playoffs. Like, if they know what you got to do and how do you got to play in the playoffs, and they lavish in it, and they do it amazing. They're the X factors for that team. They can get people off their games. They can wear people down. They all the intangibles that you need in the playoffs are wrapped up in those two players times 10. Are they playing them on the same line right now? Yeah, they play them on the same line right now. I wonder if they'll keep on doing that. Maybe. They went and got Hagel, Colton Ross, Nicholas Paul. The only thing I got to say is they're actually not the biggest team in the world. If you can wear down their top, they're not the biggest team. Sorelli says they're 6 foot. That's generous. There's no way he's 6 feet tall. I still got to say Tampa Bay's a team to beat, though. Just wait a second. So I mean, anything's possible, but I would take Tampa Bay. So next, what other? Right now, it would be in the West. It would be. I think the West is the hardest one to predict. Minnesota and Nashville. I think Nashville has beat themselves up too much. Saros is. I think Minnesota wins that. Los Angeles, Edmonton. I'm going to take Los Angeles. I don't trust Edmonton's defense. Defense wins cups. I'm going to say LA wins that. Even doesn't matter who, if Edmonton catches them or not. And that's assuming they stay in that spot, Edmonton. Colorado against Vegas or Dallas. It's Colorado. Calgary versus St. Louis. Calgary. I mean, it's all the favorites here. I'm trying to find a dog, but Calgary, then it would be Calgary, Minnesota, and that'll be interesting. And it would be Colorado, Los Angeles. The Minnesota Calgary one would be really interesting. On the Islanders, yeah. Yeah, they're going to trade Varlamov this year, I'm pretty sure. Or sign him to a lesser contract. I don't know what's... I think the Islanders are going to bring back pretty much the same team next year, I do. It was just a short season. I think they're just looking at as these guys retired. They're going to get a longer break. Get some time off to recuperate. And try it again next year. I think that's what they're going to do. But Calgary, Minnesota would be so interesting because of Fleury. And they play similar styles. Get rid of Chara. He'd probably retire. I don't know what he'll do. I was surprised they signed Parise again, and I don't know what he's doing there. I have no idea. I'm at a loss. Like, I imagine they'll try to add somewhere. You got to figure they're going to they got to get better than they were this year, even though they're going to be rested. But it's going to have to be through free agency. Kiefer Bellows, one more year, he'll probably look a little better. Like they're keeping Clutterbuck. Like, I don't know, man. They just keep they just keep going with what they got. Play a system, but they're perfectly fine going into the playoffs with a team that doesn't, on paper, have a cup-winning roster. They keep on relying on Trotz's system and some really good goaltending. Sorokin, I mean, he looks like he's going to be a really, really good. He could be the X factor for the Islanders next year. He's still got a lot of upside in goal, but they still don't have the depth in their organization. Ratu's looking really good, but that's, I think, what kills the Islanders more than anything is that their replacement players are so poor that they end up using their veterans way too much through the regular season, and they're not able to get a real break, and they end up burning out before the semifinals. If they don't bring Chara back, I'm sure they'll be looking for another defenseman. Oh, that's what I wanted to look at. What's their cap space going to look like? They got everybody signed for next year. And then Barzal is going to need a new contract in 2023-24. They let Chara go, Andy Green, but they're only $750,000 on the cap. I seriously don't know what they're going to do. What do they got? 11 million in cap space, and they got to sign. Kiefer Bellows probably won't get much more than he already does. Noah Dobson's going to need a decent contract here. And then maybe get one more defenseman, and basically you're rolling out the same roster again. Unless you trade Varlamov and get a cheaper goaltender. And then maybe you can get a significant improvement. What would you say? Don't they need goal scoring and they need defense at the same time, and they have no cap room? What would you say, Kevin Serling, is their number one need in New York? Do you think they need a defenseman or they need a scorer, right? They need a creative player to play with Barzal. I think that's what they need more than anything. On the wing. So the good part about that is wingers are easier to find. Yeah. You know, there was still, maybe they revisit the Tarasenko situation, because as far as I know, he hasn't reversed his trade request. That's the kind of guy they need. They need a guy like Tarasenko or somebody like that. But I mean, somebody else they got to trade somebody back, because they can't take on all that cap space. So they'd have to trade somebody back and stuff like that. But I would say that's really what they need more than anything. They need a guy that can score for them in a pinch, like a high percentage shooter. So if they're not having the greatest game, they can still win the game. And that, I think that's the Islanders' biggest problem, is if they aren't playing their system perfectly, they don't have anybody that's going to score them out of the situation. Like, nobody on that roster. Wallstrom has a killer shot, but they don't have anybody that's going to score them out of the situation that they're in. Anyways, guys, I got to go. Everybody starts coming in after it's all over. Yeah, I think they could be better. I think Bo's got more to do than that. And I think a lot of the Islanders' problem was that, again, they went through how many series, and they had a short layoff last summer, and they have an old team. I think they were just tired. But I got to go, guys. That's my full 42. Thanks for coming in. Talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody. Okay, bye.